I can hear you, Sonia. I'm here at the Microsoft Teams booth, and I'm joined by Anne Michaels to talk about what's new in Teams. Anne, today's been just like an avalanche of news. Can you outline for us what the main announcements are, or the most exciting announcements for you are?
Oh boy, that's kind of tough. We had so many great announcements around Microsoft Teams. But let me give you my top three. So top three would definitely include, first of all, private channels. I know this is a capability that many of you have been waiting for, and private channels are now available in Microsoft Teams. With private channels, you can create a channel in an existing team and limit access to specific members only. That is very helpful if you work on a confidential project and not everybody should be part of it, because then you don't have to create a separate team.
Yeah, that's been a really high ask, and it's a really common request, yeah, for sure.
Definitely. We also announced today that multi-window support is coming to Microsoft Teams. So you will soon be able to pop a meeting or chat out into a separate window, and then you can continue to work on other parts of Microsoft Teams. And what I'm personally also really excited about is the improved Microsoft Teams and Outlook integration. Soon you will be able to send an email from Outlook with a simple click directly to Microsoft Teams, either to a channel conversation or to a chat conversation. And the best thing, it also works the other way around. So you can also send conversations from Microsoft Teams to Outlook.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. So yeah, that's going to be, yeah, I like that. That's really cool. Yeah, okay. So those are really good things for kind of end users. Is there anything for IT pros and IT admins?
Of course, my favorite topic, as many of you know. From a security and compliance and manageability perspective, we also have quite a few announcements. So on the security and compliance side, we announced that we're expanding the options that you have for retention policies. So you will soon be able to set retention policies as low as 1 day. Then information barriers is another highly anticipated feature that is coming to Teams, which allows you to limit information sharing between certain segments of a business. That is often necessary because you need to adhere to ethical rules or industry standards or regulations. So for example, let's say you're a bank and you can't have your financial advisors talk to the merger and acquisition team. And the great thing about information barriers, which is what we announced here, is that it doesn't just work for chat and channel conversations, it will also soon come to files in Microsoft Teams. So then if you try to share a file in Microsoft Teams, it will be protected and actually prevented according to the policy.
Oh wow, and is that in response to direct customer feedback?
Absolutely. We actually talk to customers all the time, right? And we announced information barriers for chat and channel conversations earlier this year, and everybody was waiting for that then also to work for files as well.
Fantastic. I know that first-line workers is, like, it's a really important topic at the moment. Is there anything in these announcements for them?
Absolutely. So when we think about Teams, and especially about where Teams is going, we want Teams to empower every worker in every role and every industry. And that also includes first-line workers. First-line workers, there are actually over 2 billion out there, and they are often the backbone for their businesses. Think about, for example, the steward or stewardess who welcomed you on your flight, or the concierge who checked you into their hotel. First-time workers, they're really the ones to engage with the customer, and they're the ones to represent your brand. But the challenge that a lot of you have is that your first-time workers, they use outdated and obsolete tools. And with Teams, we want to change that. So earlier this year, we announced that we're adding first-time worker-specific capabilities to Teams, like, for example, schedule management. And here at Ignite, we announced a couple new ones, including phone number sign-ins. Because as a first-time worker, well, you live on your phone. And we want to make it easy for you to sign into Microsoft Teams, so you will soon be able to do that just with your phone number, and we will then send a one-time password to you so that you can then easily sign in.
Oh wow, that's really cool. So yeah, that's for first-line workers, I can see that being super, super useful. The other thing that strikes me as really interesting, like, we're surrounded by all these devices at the moment, and every year the devices are completely different, and every year the announcements are different because everything is changing. What's it like in your job, like, to deal with something like Teams that changes so quickly compared to some of the other, what's it like compared to some of the other Office 365 things you've worked on?
I would say it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's really a lot of fun. But you're right. We work on a team that is very fast-paced. We move extremely fast. But what is really, really great, and what I love so much about it, is that everybody who works on Teams, both on the marketing and as well as on the engineering side, everybody is extremely passionate about the product. We push each other because we want to make sure that we have the best experience for our customers. And I want to actually give a big shout out to everybody who's back at Redmond, who's not here in Orlando at Ignite today, especially our engineering team, who has really created Teams and who enables us to continue to evolve the product at such a rapid pace.
Yeah, absolutely, that's great. How does it feel to work in the job that you do working with Microsoft Teams in the way that you do? Because you must work with some of the biggest organizations in the world. Like, what does it feel like when they suddenly get it, and they get how Teams works for them, and they get how it can drive that collaboration and flow?
That is actually one of the favorite parts of my job, because I just love to see how customers are using Teams to change how end users are changing the way how they work. Let me give you an example. Alcoa is one of the biggest aluminum producers in the world. And they have a plant in Iceland, so pretty remote, and they run operations 24/7. But when you run continuous operations like that in a remote location, you have a lot of challenges. For example, one challenge that they had was when their first-time workers, they all work in shifts. When they come in, they need to know what happened in the shift before, but they also need to know what happened the day before, yesterday. So they introduced Microsoft Teams for that. Now, whenever somebody ends their shift, they actually share a message in a channel with all the information about what happened during their shift, so that then the worker who comes afterwards, as well as all the other workers who come later, they have all the information that they need directly, easily accessible to them.
Right, got it. And it's interesting, that's kind of changing the way, it's molding Teams to match how the organizations work, I guess. That's really cool. So you're also doing sessions at Ignite, right? So you have a number of things going on at Ignite. So you've got some theatre sessions, I believe. It'd be good to talk through some of those.
We definitely have something else going on at Ignite. I think we all are very busy this week, which is great. But if you want to come and learn more about the things that I just talked about, I'm doing a session, a deep dive on how to manage Microsoft Teams effectively tomorrow afternoon. And we're also doing another session about what is new in Microsoft Teams tomorrow morning at 10:15 as well.
Fantastic. And I just want to dig into the job that you do. What makes you kind of most proud, if you like, with all the things that you're doing? Like, what's the one, and you think, oh, I really like what I'm doing and I'm making a difference? What really makes me proud is how we think about how Microsoft Teams enables every single worker out there, right? We didn't just build Microsoft Teams for information workers like me that sit in front of a desk every day and sit in front of a laptop, but we really want to make sure that Microsoft Teams helps everybody to do better work, and that includes people that work in a plant, that includes people that work in a retail store, in a classroom, or in a hospital. We really want to use Microsoft Teams to help everybody to be more productive, and that is really great to work on a product like that. Fantastic. I'm going to ask you a hard question now, okay? So, how do you see Teams going in the future? Like, what's the long-term vision? For, if you were in charge of Teams, all up, what would you do? I think there's so many areas that we're currently focused on, right? We will definitely continue to evolve Teams, especially to make sure that it really has tailor-made capabilities for those specific industries. Because every organization, they have very specific needs and requirements. And we need to make sure that Teams meets all of those specific requirements. Then from an admin perspective, you will continue to see more customization possibilities. Because when we think about your organization, right, nobody knows what your organization needs, but actually you. So you need to be able to really customize the service to make sure that your end users have the best experience possible. So more customization, and I guess alongside that, it's kind of keeping those IT admins kind of all the tools that they need as well, and sort of rounding out the whole experience, right? Yeah, absolutely. But just one thing to add to that, if you have specific feedback on Teams, please let us know. You might actually have realized that we listen very closely to feedback. So if there are capabilities that you are missing, please use user voice to let us know, and then maybe next Ignite we'll have an announcement that you actually asked for. Fantastic. We've covered so much. We've covered the announcements have been really interesting today. So thank you ever so much for your time. There's one other thing I just wanted to talk about. You're doing an unconference as well. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Absolutely. So I'm doing on Wednesday, actually, I'm doing a session. It's not live stream, so people who are not at Ignite won't be able to join, but I'm doing an on-conference session on how to balance family and career. Some of you might know, I recently had my first child. Congratulations. Thank you. My daughter, Tori, who is 8-month-old. Hello. She won't be able to see this yet, but... You can show it to her in a few years' time. Exactly. And in that session on Wednesday, we're bringing other parents that are here at Ignite together to really talk about the challenges that you have as you try to balance family and career, and how you can have it all. Okay, fantastic. Well, that's an unconference session people can go and watch you at, as well as the other sessions you're doing, which is fantastic. And with all the great Teams announcements, there's going to be so much for people to look at, and so it's going to be there's loads going on. There's just loads going on, isn't there? There's just so much going on. So what I'm going to say is thank you very much, Anne. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for watching.